Namaskar. The topic of discussion in this module is on the classification of crops. The geography of India deals with a lot of aspects which are very much essential for our planning, decision making and development. Geography deals with the spatial distribution of all natural resources like soils, plants, minerals, water, oil, energy and other resources. The area, production and yield of crops is a part of this geographic analysis. Agriculture is the backbone of India's economy. The history of agriculture dates back to several centuries. Crops and plants were grown and domesticated by the people in several parts of the world since ancient times. Plants which are fully useful for human and animal consumption have been segregated and cultivated in the farmlands and agricultural fields. In geographic studies, the area of cultivation of crops and plants, the factors of their growth, their distribution and yield are analyzed with reference to space and time. In this context, there is a need to classify the crops for a systematic geographical analysis. The International Code of Botanical Nomenclature explains the principal ranks of taxa. According to them, plants are classified based on three important criteria as botanical, descriptive and agricultural. A common, well-defined system of crop classification is important in geography. Globally, major crop classifications are defined by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. For a better understanding of agricultural crops and their distribution in India and the globe, a knowledge of the classification of plants and crops is needed. Hence, the objectives of studying this lesson are to know about the descriptive classification, ecological classification, agricultural classifications, horticultural classification, ornamental and plantation classification. These are the five major classification schemes which we are going to see in this lesson. Let us see the first one, the descriptive classification of crops. The descriptive classification of crops is based on five criterions. They are the mode of reproduction, mode of pollination, lifespan, growth habit and leaf retention. The method adopted according to the mode of reproduction has classified the crops into two major divisions as sexual and asexual reproducing plants. The sexual category of plants are developed from a seed or spore after undergoing union of male and female gametes. The typical examples include palms and ferns. The asexual category of plants undergo reproduction by any vegetative means without the union of the sexual gametes or by apomixis. The crop classifications attempted according to the mode of pollination is a unique criteria. This criteria divides plants into three categories as naturally self-pollinated crops, naturally cross-pollinated crops, both self and cross-pollinated crops. In the naturally self-pollinated plants, both pollen and embryo sac are produced in the same floral structure or in different flowers but within the same plant. The typical examples include rice, most pulses, okra, tobacco and tomato. In the naturally cross-pollinated crops, the pollen transfer is done from one flower to the stigma of another flower in a separate plant. Typical examples include corn and many grasses, avocado, grape, mango. Many plants with unisexual or imperfect flowers also belong to this category. In both self and cross-pollinated crops, plants are largely self-pollinated, but varying amounts of cross-pollination also occur. The typical examples include cotton and sorghum. According to lifespan classification criteria, crops are classified into annuals, biennial crops, and perennial categories of crops. The annuals are plants which live within a short period of time for a few weeks or months, perpetuated by seed, and which die soon after producing the seeds. Typical examples include rice, corn, and cowpeas. The biennials are plants which require 2 growing seasons to complete its life cycle. The first one is for vegetative growth and accumulation of food reserves, and the second one is for the production of reproductive parts. Typical examples include onion, cabbage, carrot, celery, and radish. The perennials include a plant that lives indefinitely, including all trees and shrubs and many herbaceous plants with underground stems like banana and clump forming grasses. The perennial plants continue growing and produce seeds year after year, either from a single plant or in a herbaceous plant from succeeding regrowth. Based on growth habit, the crops are classified into herbs, vines, lianas, shrubs, and trees. According to leaf retention, plants are classified into evergreen plants and deciduous plants. The evergreen plants are those that maintain their leaves throughout the year. Abscissed leaves are continuously replaced by the new leaves or flushes. The typical examples include pines, banana, papaya, palms, and most tropical plants. The deciduous plants are those which naturally shed off or lose their leaves annually for an extended period. Natural leaf shedding is pronounced in deciduous trees of temperate regions. These are all the characteristic features of botanical classification of crops.